Yeah, so I mean, like the thing is with no, like the thing is with Demon Mama, right? And I mean, like I don't want to say too much because like everyone in chat broadly agrees, right? Like we have like this is a very like everyone in chat broadly understands this. The problem that it seems like there's gonna have going forward is that like for example, Chud Logic just came on recently, and basically the position that Chud Logic was in was something to the effect of. And even if he didn't want to say it overtly, like this was the vibe I got, so maybe I'm mischaracterizing, right? Essentially, like, he said that he was friends with Demon Mama, so he was put between a rock and a hard place. He acknowledged that Demon Mama did wrong things, but was, you know, like, Demon Mama is his friend, right? And I think that we're probably seeing, like, a lot of the similar behavior between people across, like, the left in general, or whatever it is we want to call, like, this defined part of the community. Where like essentially there's a lot of people who maybe like covertly recognize that Demon Mama did stuff wrong. And mind you, I've talked to a lot of people behind closed doors. A lot of really big people believe that Demon Mama colossally fucked up, even if they won't necessarily say it overtly. And like it's a problem where a lot of people like really like her, but like because they don't want to necessarily ruin the relationship with her, they will go along if Demon Mama starts impugning people. Or like basically like they'll try to like hand wave away as much of what's happening as possible, right? Like basically it's like, oh, we're gonna ignore these issues in our friends or in the people that we associate with for the sake of trying to maintain peace within the community, which is a really bad take in my opinion. Like I was saying this earlier, but like I think that like especially with friends, and this is one of the biggest reasons why like, this is basically, like, with Chud Logic, I was, like, trying to, like, Chud Logic was like, listen, I don't want to, like, morally impugn people, like, I don't want to be in that kind of space, that's not what I'm trying to do here, and I'm like, well, I mean, like, in order to be able to understand the full context of exactly what happened, it's kind of necessary to be able to, oh, what do you call it? Like, it's kind of necessary to be able to recognize when people do morally bad things, because sometimes you might be cutting out, like, absolutely necessary context. Like, in the video that she made that we're going over right now, she, like, at many times says things like, you know, then things got heated, then I muted the call. That, like, she'll specifically, like, frame it, whatever happens, in, like, as morally neutral or, like, in as, like, sanitized a way as possible to avoid including the information that actually she was the one who was causing each of these bad things that she was citing as we go through the video or through the debate, you know?
Yep,
and so, like,
or just, in my... I never got a video manifesto, which I guess I'm not worth it.
I'm sorry. Hold on. Vosh was writing in his assessment. They both did shitty things in the debate. I think RGR just blew this out. Wait, did Vosh say something about the debate? Is there a Vosh review now? Also, I don't stand by it. Wait, hold on. Did Vosh actually say that? Hold on. Where's Vosh's statement? Do I have to go over Vosh's statement now? God damn it. Why does everyone have a fucking opinion on this? All right, in any sense, right? Or in any case. Oh god, what was I saying? Yeah, so I mean, like, as she goes through the video, she will, like, deliberately leave out how she causes all of the bad things that she brings up and try to imply that they're all my fault. Or at the very least that we both are causing things and actually it's just, like, a morally neutral space. And this is a problem, like, in a lot of spaces on the left because, like, essentially people who are close to other people won't acknowledge when they do things that are wrong and because they want to maintain the relationship with them. But the problem with that is that they don't actually end up, like, correcting that behavior, you know? Like, clearly, you know, the things that Demon Mama did with me have been done before, you know? She's used this kind of behavior before, multiple times, except in those instances, it was either with someone who either didn't, like, draw up enough drama to get recognized, like with you, or who was broadly disliked by most people on the left, like with Destiny. And so people didn't even, like, even if she did, like, use really bad faith debate tactics, like what she used with me, people aren't really going to care that much because they're against people who they're either not interested in or against people who are broadly disliked anyway, so they don't really care how they get to the end result. They just want that person to be dunked on or whatever.
Yep.
And so, like, I think that the reason people care here is because, like, I generally have a reputation of not only being very trustworthy in my trans takes, which is what we're talking about in the debate, but also, like, I'm broadly liked in the community, you know, or at least I was. I don't know how I'm doing with that one. I hope that I'm liked. You know, I like having good relationships with people. But, like, insofar as, like, as related to this debate, there's definitely a problem. Like, this is unique insofar as, like, Demon Mama can't just as easily say, oh, Riley is acting in bad faith, oh, Riley is being unreasonable, oh, Riley is being crazy, oh, Riley is just being, is just trying to justify her own experience. She's clearly not able to be objective. She's not able to get away with saying that as much because people know that I'm not prone to doing those kind of things, and people know I'm a very rational actor, And so, like, a lot of people are going to look at this because of, like, all those different elements and basically be like, hold on, what's happening? Tobin. Oh, hey, Tobin, what's happening? Yeah. No, we doing all right. We doing good. What was I saying? Fuck. So yeah, like, people aren't able to ignore this kind of behavior here. And I think that's like a big reason why a lot of people are paying attention to it now, even though it's been a big issue. And the problem is that if we don't correct for this, like, especially if her friends don't correct for this, she's never going to change, and this problem is just going to continue into perpetuity, And the people who are close to her are just going to have to bite the bullet that they probably know that she fucked up morally, but are just not willing to actually do anything to make her rectify the situation,
Yeah. Because it's easy, like, the reason, part of the reason she could get away with it before is because the targets were easier. Like, it's easy to say that, for example, like, Destiny's transphobic because he's not trans. It's easy to say that I'm an incel because I guess I'm a dude. I don't know.
Yeah, it's a weird. Well, I mean, like, I only watched a little bit of it, but like, why? Like, what was the bit? Like, was it literally just that post?
Yeah. So she saw that post. She assumed I was an incel. Like, she said as such. She'll deny that she had any preconceived notions, but there's plenty of clips of her, saying as much and saying that I'm an incel afterwards, and she just ran with it. Like, the thing that we got hung up on was at one point, forget how we got on the topic, but we got on the topic of the fact that men generally don't receive as many compliments as women in society. And I said that the majority of the cause of that problem is probably on women, because I don't think men complimenting men is going to help their self-esteem nearly as much as women complimenting men. But she just got really hung up on that, and she tried to keep painting me as though I'm blaming women, when just saying they're the cause, they're not necessarily at fault.
I'm sorry, can you explain this again? I'm sorry, I just need to hear the take again.
Sure, yeah. So at one point in the conversation, we got to the topic of how women in society receive more compliments than men in general.
Yeah, I think I remember seeing this clip.
Yeah. So at one point, I say that most likely the majority of the cause of men's, like, self-esteem problems or whatever is probably caused by women, because they're going to care about compliments from women more than men.
Okay.
But Demon Mama got hung up at that and tried to keep painting that as me putting responsibility or, like, moral fault on women for not complimenting them.
Oh,
that's
yeah.
not what
I mean,
believe.
like, that's a pretty nuanced take, but I mean, like, I can definitely, like, I'm not sure if I necessarily agree with it, but I think it's reasonable. Like, I don't think that that's, like, a super incel-y take, to be able to acknowledge broadly that, like, listen, like, guys care a lot about compliments from women, and so, like, even if women don't intentionally cause it, that, like, that could be, like, a causal factor in, their confidence and, like, how much confidence they have in society, Like,
yeah.
Like, I don't think that that's, like, necessarily an incel take. I'm not sure if I agree. Like, I'd have to think more on it because I hadn't heard that one before, but, like, I wouldn't say that's, like, an incel take.
Yeah, but, like, this pattern sort of continued at different conversation topics, because we jumped from topic to topic, but, like, another thing that I brought up is that, like, I said that it's possible for people to exploit their sexuality. I was very clear to say people, not women, but she made it about women because I'm supposed to be an incel.
Right.
And the most specific example of this that I can give is that she introduced the word like titty streamer. She introduced that term.
Okay.
And then I used that term alongside what I said, for lack of a better term, let's just keep using the term titty streamer. And then 30 minutes down the conversation, she then flips it around and criticizes me for using the term titty streamer.
Wait, what?
Was a mindfuck for me, yeah.
What? So wait, she's the one who introduces using a term and then specifically impugns you for using the term that she started using to begin with? Holy shit. Oh my god.
And not only that, but I specifically said for lack of a better term. Because I was kind of weird on using titty streamer because it's got a weird connotation to it.
That's amazing. Oh my god. That's awful. I mean, like, I'm sorry that you had to go through that because, I mean, like, fuck. Like, these are the kind of things that can give you, like, such a mind fuck in the middle of it, where it's like, I mean, essentially you are, like, it's almost like gaslighting in that, like, you have to doubt essentially your own, like, oh, wait, hold on. Did I actually, like, am I using this term correctly, or am I the one who introduced it, or, like, am I the one to be blamed here, right? Like, those are the things that might be going through your head, when in fact it's like, no, she's 100% in the blame here. Or 100% the wrong here. Like, she literally introduced using the term and is blaming you for using it later. Like, that's awful. Manipulation tactics. It's absolutely manipulation tactics. Thank you, Pixie.
There's one clip that I really want you to watch because it's just like 30 seconds and it's a beautiful
Can you drop it in chat?
example. Yeah, my friend clipped it and he's not fucking linking it.
Oh, kind of like how DM brought up dysphoria in my discussion. Oh my god.
Oh,
it's like
it's
the exact fucking same. Like, literally, I never brought up dysphoria. I was never the one to bring up dysphoria. And then literally she kept trying to bring up, like, hey, are you talking about dysphoria? Hey, are you talking about dysphoria? Hey, are you talking about dysphoria? And so I was like, no, I'm not. No, I'm not. No, I'm not. But she kept trying to get me on it because she was trying to get a gotcha on me to try and prove, I don't know, that I was like a TERF or something, or that I was like a trans medicalist.
I kept talking about this on when I watched it on my stream. This is something that I noticed because it happened to me with the titty streamer thing. Is that she brings up the word dysphoria, you like tentatively agree, and then she drills you on that word that you didn't even necessarily want to use.
Yep.
My advice is that I think I sort of got what you're getting at specifically. I think what you were trying to get at is that even if there's no like negative factor affecting a trans person, no dysphoria, there's still a positive
there could be a positive, or it could be
there's
something
like a
else,
positive
right?
force.
It could be positive, or it could be something else, like just some kind of underlying matter of the fact. Like, basically, like, the way that I was explaining it to people.
The word that I used is like a motivation. There's got to be some reason that you would bother with identifying with a gender.
Exactly.
There's got to be something.
You know, like, there's a reason that you choose to make certain gendered expressions, right? Like, that's not like it. Like, I don't know. This almost goes to the question of like consciousness, right? Like, you choose, like, or I mean, like, there's a reason why you choose to make some kind of gendered expression beyond just like self-identity. One example that I heard earlier that people were actually using, and I'm not sure if this is like a really good example. Well, I mean, like, there's a couple examples that we can explore this with. One that I heard that I hadn't heard before was like, if conservatives identify as a woman to like lie or to like misrepresent themselves, that could be an example. Although I probably would go a step further and say, all right, well, what about someone who's like trans race, right? Like, what about someone who like identifies as someone who is a different skin color than what they have, right? I would say that that's like a good example because we would say that like, well, you probably can't be trans race because there's something distinguishing being trans from that, right? And also the matter, or sorry, go ahead.
No, yeah, like this is like all things that like I thought through is like, I don't think Demon Mama, she was talking to me, for example. If I were to just in the middle of the debate say, actually I identify as a woman, I don't think she would accept that, and for good reason, because if I don't change anything about my life, I don't, like, it's pretty clear that I'm probably not a woman. Like, there's something that I'm missing.
Yeah. Like, there's some kind of underlying, there's like something underlying there, right? But the whole point of the conversation, as it pertains to like this conversation, is that like she was trying to make it out, and like the thing about it, which makes me think it's bad faith, like I think that you could like misinterpret, like I think that there could be room for misunderstanding, but when she explicitly asked me multiple times if I was talking about dysphoria and I said no or not necessarily, and yet she chose to continue to ask me about it, like it shows that she doesn't like she's not actually trying to clarify some kind of misunderstanding. It shows that she's trying to rather like get a gotcha on me to prove that I'm like, I don't know, probably some kind of trans medicalist or something similar, you know?
Yeah. So I sent you in Discord DMs, I sent you the clip that I'm talking about.
Oh, like, did you DM me? Let's see.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Let's see.
And I just highly recommend you watch.
All right, we got it. Oh, I think I did see this. Okay, hold on. All right, we're gonna full screen this shit. Oh yeah, absolutely.
Attention in a world where men already get an incredible.
Oh, hold on. Let me turn up the volume.
Do you think that women paying men more attention in a world where men already get an incredible amount of attention from women and then also abuse that would solve the problem?
You think men get a lot of positive attention from women spontaneously in a non-romantic way?
Some men do. Yep.
Some
men do.
Some.
Yeah, but it's rare. And you want to know why it's rare?
But it's rare
because men.
Wait, so is it rare or is it a lot?
it's rare for an individual to have that type.
You just said it was a lot, though.
All right, are you just trolling at this point?
Are you just trolling at this point? I'm sorry.
Yeah. No. Yeah.
I'm sorry. I cannot take this. I cannot take her seriously. Oh my god. Oh my god. Literally in the same 30 seconds goes through, you know, a lot of men get the positive compliments or whatever. Oh, you think that a lot of men get that? Well, some of them do. Yeah, it's rare, but some of them do. Like, holy shit, the back and forth, the mental gymnastics you have to go through to think that that's actually someone who's acting in good faith. Like, holy fuck. And then the coup de grace, like the cherry on top is, are you trolling me right now? Are you trolling me right now? Are you trolling me right now?
The little quips were what got to me. The quips were what actually started to like break my mental. But like this was an example of her like immediately like, I mean, this is very obvious bad faith. She makes two diametrically opposed points in the same sentence. But some of the other things I found really funny, and if you ever watch it, you'll probably find them entertaining too, is some of the bullets that she would just bite because she couldn't ever bring herself to agree with anything I said. Like at one point, I got her to say that in a hypothetical scenario where one person's holding a gun, the other is holding a knife, the guy with the knife is charging you. You are the aggressor because you're holding a gun.
Yeah. Oh, wait. Hold on. Wait.
So you're standing still, someone's coming at you, and you're the aggressor because you're holding a gun.
Wait, is that something that she had to concede to?
Yeah. Because she wouldn't allow a distinction between bigger threat and the aggressor. Because we're talking about like domestic abuse scenarios or something like that.
Gotcha.
And, yeah.
Okay. Yeah. No, that's very similar to in my conversation. There was a similar bullet biter where eventually we got to, right? Where I mean, like there's some questions like she really tried avoiding answering some questions. Like in her video, she was like, "Now Riley was really asking me like certain like she was." I think that she described as like dishonest or something similar. She was like, Riley had said things like, you have to answer this question, and not actually show what the question was, even though the question was specifically trying to get at these kind of points, because I felt like she was wiggling like a fuck ton. And one of the questions was like, if you have a trans person, or let's say that you have like an AMAP person who was raised in a super conservative Christian household, doesn't know that they're trans, but has a lot of feelings that if under certain circumstances where it's like they're more accepting and more knowledgeable about trans issues, might lead them to believe later in life, or might lead them to find out later in life that they are, but they choose to actively repress those feelings growing up, you know? And so as a consequence of repressing those feelings, they overtly identify as a man. And so I asked her like, hey, so would that person, up until they find out that they have these trans feelings, up until they find out that they're trans, are they a man? And she tried to avoid the question, but like there was a point earlier in the conversation where I believe she just bit the bullet and just said yes. And it's like those kind of things where it's like literally Riley getting abrogated and forcing conversation, tunnel down, single question is justified when a review is being intentionally misrepresented to paint or trans. Yeah, absolutely. And so like no, I like it's a really, I think that my impression, right? Like my impression of the conversation, and you can ascribe whatever you want from your experience, but my experience was essentially that like, because I was like asking questions to try and get at the specific issue, and like I was trying to ask her effectively like these bullet biter questions, right? I think that she realized later on down the line that like she couldn't give a clear yes or a no to these questions, and so she tried to like wiggle out of them or find other ways to ad hom or agitate me to be able to avoid answering the questions.
There were a few questions that like she just outright like refused to answer and managed to like distract you from asking again. Like the most important one I think was you eventually got her down a road where the logical conclusion of what she said is that being trans is a choice, which obviously isn't the conclusion that I think anybody would want to come to. And she realized that, and so she just wiggled and wiggled and wiggled around until eventually, like, you forgot or got distracted by something else dumb that she said, or...
I think that my memory is that she did bite the bullet. I think at some point in the conversation, maybe I'm misremembering.
What she said, the thing I remember is she said, I think it depends on the person, or something like that.
Oh, God. All right. Fucking listen.
Which, yeah.
Yeah, no, giving, like, it depends on the person is, like, the most fucking non-answer of all non-answers.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, so I mean, like, my memory was that like there was a point where, I mean, like I'm trying to remember. I think that at one point she said that it was a choice or like implied as such. But then like when we started getting into some of the implications of what that would mean, she started to get like very like you know, like throughout the entire, well, I mean, like throughout the entirety of the time, she was very like non-responsive in a lot of questions, right? Or wiggled as much as she could to try and not answer them. Whether it was like so like when we tried to explore a lot of hypotheticals, she tried to say like, oh, well, those things are an object, regardless of whether or not they were or not. Even though like I'm not sure if, well, I don't know, I've talked that over with Destiny, and like there are other ways to be able to approach those issues. Where was I trying to go with this? Yeah, so I mean, like there were just plenty of times throughout the conversation where it was like she was being deliberately obtuse, and like I don't know, like my experience is that like when you have someone who's being deliberately obtuse, I would think it'd be reasonably understood or reasonably easy to see by the audience, right? Because like I'm trying to think of the right way to be able to put this. There's two stories that you could technically follow through this conversation, right? You could say that Demon Mama was acting in good faith and that she was responding to everything, or that she was being deliberately obtuse. I think that it's pretty easy to be able to see if you watch that to see what she did. But it can be hard when there are other people who are like super heavy in her corner, like gaslighting you constantly about the subject, you know?
Yeah. And I never had that experience, which is like why when I first said it, like I kept saying like I feel so much like worse for you because you're going through the same thing, except your chat is also like half against you. And I can't imagine going through that and like looking over to Twitch chat and seeing them agree with the person who's like straight up like gaslighting you in real time. Like that would have mind fucked me.
Yeah, no, it was a lot. But I mean, like, I don't know. I think that like it's helpful to be able, like, this is the reason why and maybe this is kind of like the operative thing to deal with this, right? Because in my opinion, like, especially, maybe this is like a calling to a lot of people in political spaces, right, for more accountability. But essentially, like, my biggest takeaway from this is the way that you deal with this is by always having as much transparency as fucking possible, right? Like, everything that you have on a given situation, like, you lay that shit all on the table. The entire debate, that's fucking up. Every conversation I've had, that's going to be up, or it's going to be up on my channel. I release them one day at a time because putting together videos takes a lot of my day, and I have a million things going on. But just making sure that like everything is as transparent as possible, and also just like making sure that you're actually be like able to hold like the people who, even if like the people that you're close to, accountable for any mistakes that they make or any like bad things that they do, you know? Because like there's a really big tendency to kind of overlook the misgivings of certain people. If you're especially if you're close to them or if you just like vaguely like them. And I think that in those circumstances, it's especially important to make sure that we don't just like hand wave away those things, because if not, they're going to come back. Like in the way that they happened with you, in the way that they happened with Destiny. It only like those were problems back then. Like the way that she handled herself back then was individually an issue back then. It just get recognized by people until it got to the point where it happened to someone else that people actually, you know, paid attention to more, you know?
Yeah. And some people don't seem to realize, but like you were saying in your conversation, and I didn't know this is a controversial take, but like people making bad arguments for conclusions that you agree in is a bad thing.
Yeah.
Like when you get into an area where you're having a hard time arguing against like the attack helicopter joke, which should be like the easiest fucking dunk in the universe, but when you're all of a sudden operating in a world where that's hard to argue against, it's like not good. In my experience, after our conversation, I said I don't think anybody should talk to Demon Mama about any topic related to feminism or patriarchy, because I think I don't know if she has this understanding or if she just was being dumb in our conversation and like it made it look that way, but she came across as having like a 2012 Tumblr level understanding of patriarchy. Like patriarchy is when men do bad things to women, and like that's the extent of her knowledge of it. At least in our conversation.
It's not great. Yeah, no, I mean, like, I tend to agree, right? It's a very important issue. Actually, like, here's the thing about it, because I was thinking about this earlier today, right? The reason why, like, there's a very specific reason to me that's observable, like, in a lot of modern discourse why that's important, is because what often happens is a lot of criticisms about liberals in particular, or like when we say liberals, I don't know, like I'm probably broadly defined as liberal. Here we're saying liberal, like people who focus more on like the like aesthetics and politics, who propose like a lot of very aesthetic, heavy quotation solutions without actually resolving any systemic issues, right? Like that's who we're talking about. So to define our definitions, a lot of people who will criticize those people in politics will have good criticisms regardless of if they are further left or right of that person, right? And even if they have the same kind of criticisms, like for example, saying that like criticizing a corporation for doing like having up a rainbow flag during Pride Month, right? Like that, like you will incur like that corporation will incur criticisms from people on the left and on the right, but for entirely different reasons, right? Like they will get to the same place of criticizing that corporation, but for completely different reasons. Because on the left, we can recognize broadly that actually corporations have kind of like commodified essentially the struggle for LGBT liberation and have like turned it into something that can be bought and sold in the market. And that's pretty cringe. But conservatives aren't making that argument. Conservatives are making the argument that it's bad because LGBT people are exactly, like they make the argument because they don't like LGBT people or because they hate gay people or whatever, right? Like they have the same conclusion. Corporations in this respect are bad or cringe, but they have entirely different methods for being able to arrive at that conclusion. And the reason why this is important is especially because in these kind of conversations, it can be hard for people who don't know anything about politics to be able to meaningfully differentiate who to be able to follow, right? Is the person that you end up, you know, if you're going on social media and you're looking up, oh, hey, it's Pride Month, I'm going to look up what's happening with Pride Month. And you see two different videos, one that has like 1,000 views by some like lefty trans YouTuber who's talking about how corporations are appropriating their struggle for, you know, for profit. Are they going to watch that video, or are they going to watch the 2 million view video by Steven Crowder shitting on it with a bunch of other people?
Yeah.
You know, like
this is this is kind of similar to one thing that like one of my biggest pet peeves on Twitter is I cannot believe how many people repeated. Do you know who Tucker Carlson is?
Yeah, of course. Yeah, no, yeah.
Oh yeah, I'm sorry.
Yeah, no, you're all good.
But like so many people online who are ostensibly like leftists or progressives or whatever will unironically fall for his bullshit because he'll say some shit about like the corporate elite and they control the media, and then leftists will like post on Twitter to 50,000 likes like, holy shit, who knew Tucker Carlson was so based? It's like people don't understand, like Tucker Carlson hates corporations because they hire immigrants and they hire gay people. That's the reason he hates corporations. Okay? It's not because he hates fucking rich people, okay? It's very different reasons.
Yep. And so like if we want to bring this also into like trans discussion too, essentially like the thing about this, actually this is really important. I was going to make this into a segment, but I can just like bring it in here, right? Because we need to be able to talk about it. Earlier today on my video, like I uploaded a video where I was talking to another YouTuber, Avi, who I really respect. I think that he's super duper smart. We were talking about like the formal logic for like, can self-ID work, right? And in the comments for that video, there was actually comments from someone who I debated a while ago, like a fucking off the like unhinged TERF who unironically, like we finished the debate between the two of us where I got him to admit, like I asked him the very pointed question of if a woman or if someone walks into a restroom, how would you check if that person is a man or a woman? And I got him to unironically admit that they would need to check that person's genitals. Like that's the kind of that's the degree of fucking crazy that we're operating with there. And so like and that person was in the chat, was in the comments basically being like, oh, hold on, I gotta do a close up for this. Oh, Riley, I'm so happy that you're finally coming around on this very serious issue. Trans self-ID is fucking off the rails. I'm so ready for whenever you come around on biological sex and defining what a man or a woman is. Even though I never said any of those things to begin with. And so like, oh, hold on, I gotta go back to my main monitor. There we go. And so like, that's one of those instances where like, technically, I think that like TERFs in this respect have made like a correct criticism of this like line of argumentation that's popular in the trans community, but like a lot of TERFs will take that and run with it to say a whole lot of other
all the way
crazy shit.
Down, yeah.
You know, then they'll take that to be like, oh, well, if trans people are wrong about this, well, they must be wrong about biological sex, and they must be wrong about predators in the restroom, and they must be wrong about trans youth, and they'll just like go da 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 da, just based off of like this one thing, like just based off of like the validity of this one criticism, right?
Yep.
And so like and so that's, and also we can see this for like Blair White too. I think she's another really good example I was talking with someone about earlier, where essentially like also if we have like a pure self ID kind of argument, well, that might not be relatable to a lot of trans people who do genuinely feel that doesn't adequately represent their lived experience. And so Blair White can be over in the corner being like, listen, all those crazy people who are saying only self ID matters, listen, I can relate to you. You can relate to me. I got you, fam. I got you. Come over here. I'm the reasonable person. They clearly have gone off. The trans activists are all completely unhinged. They're saying whatever. Words don't mean anything. And that's how you get a lot of people over there, because even if you have like a valid criticism, because then she's going to go on, like, even if she's able to make like that individual valid criticism, and mind you, I'm not sure if she's like smart enough to be able to do that, like personal take, just after like going over so much of her content. But even if she did like make that as concisely as possible, like she's going to go off and just basically like make a bunch of like drama videos laughing at like trans people who don't pass, you know, or like binary trans people who don't pass, right? Like you're able to like they're able to start from a place where they're able to bring people in by being the quote unquote reasonable people, but then sashay off in the moon logic, right? And you see the same kind of thing here, right? Where essentially you have people who are starting with like a single like agreeable idea and then like sashaying off because like people, hold on, Demon was aggressive. Yeah. I'm trying to remember. Actually, hold on. What was the point that we were trying to tie this into? I'm sorry. I hope does that make sense? Did I describe the point adequately?
Yeah. If you let like one or two bad arguments slide, people on the opposite end will take it and run it all the way down into.
Yeah, no, all right. Yeah, that got us back there, right? So we have to make sure that we don't spread bad arguments, because if they do, then people in the opposition are going to be able to have an actually fair criticism of us, because it is a fair criticism. Like we're allowing those arguments to be able to persist. And then even if the rest of what they say is dog shit, they will be able to convince people that in this respect we're not reasonable, and they will be able to win people over from us, you know?
Yep. Yeah, I feel like an unfortunate phenomenon, and I hope people grow out of it. Dear God, I fucking hope people grow out of it. But like, Gen Z progressive politics fucking terrifies me, because it feels to me that what happened is that like the millennial generation like did the SJ. I say SJW is like a term of endearment. I'm a proud SJW, right? They did the SJW thing, and then Zoomers grew up with that, but they look at all of the conclusions, and they look at all of the arguments the conservatives made against them, and they didn't separate the two out. So I see a whole lot of fucking like progressive Zoomers making some real dog shit arguments and supporting some real dog shit conclusions, and I just hope to God that they fucking grow out of it. Like, the best example that I can think of, just because it's a recent thing that I saw, is I joked about this being like a satirical take, a parody of woke Zoomers, and then it unironically came true, which was the being anti interracial relationships, but like in a woke way, and then it unironically came true.
Wait, what?
Yeah, there's a whole fucking breed of fucking Gen Z progressive thought that is against interracial relationships, but woke.
Oh shit! Yeah, no. I've seen some of these. I had to think for a second, like, hold it, or are these actually like? No, I've seen some of these where it's like actually, unironically, some people advocate for that, like black people should stick to their own and white people should stick to their own. But it's like they're not racist; they're woke saying it. And it's like, no, what are you doing?
That and like my next prediction is gonna be someone somewhere out there. There's gonna be a TikTok made with 200,000 likes that says that like abled people can't date disabled people because disabled people can't properly consent, or some crazy fucking shit like that, and it's unironically going to get adopted because it feels like people forgot the reasons why people came to woke conclusions and just keep making woker and woker conclusions without thinking about the reason why. And
Yep. Yeah, I mean, like, I don't know. I really hope that like the online or like this space in online politics, whatever it is that we occupy, I really hope that we're able to get like this behavior out of here, right? Because if I'm wrong, I want to be fucking told that I'm wrong. Or if I do something bad, I want to be fucking told I'm bad. Like, I want to talk to people. And that doesn't mean I'm not necessarily going to, like, accept every criticism as if, like if someone tells me, like, for example, like, a lot of people in my community were, like, heavy quotations, criticizing me. Like, I'm going to listen to those. That doesn't mean I'm not automatically, like, going to agree with them. But I want to hear the criticisms because, like, if I'm fucking up, I want to know that I'm fucking up. Like, I really do want to know, you know? But just because I also disagree with someone doesn't mean that necessarily, like, I'm not respecting their opinion if I don't think it's convincing or I don't think that, like, it's an adequate enough concern for me to be able to, like, do or make certain actions based on. And then beyond that, I want to make sure that, like, we aren't scared of, like, criticizing people that we're close to just at risk of, like, maybe pissing them off because I want to make sure that this kind of shit doesn't happen, you know?
Yeah.
So yeah.
And this is another this is a an example that I personally have dealt with, which is possibly the most counterintuitive anti-progress thing that I've seen, which is that so in my Twitter circle, I still don't entirely understand why or how, but I have all my Twitter friends are trans. I still don't know how it happened, but it just happened. That's all my Twitter friends. And I often get called a chaser because of that. And
wait, what?
I've had people unironically in DMs criticize me and they've made arguments that get very scarily close to an area in which they're unironically saying that cis people shouldn't date or have relationships with trans people because that would make them chasers. And I don't know how you come to this conclusion because it's so against the grain of everything that you should be trying to do.
That's so fucking weird. What?
Yeah, it's out there.
Tobin, oh, hold on. Tobin's asking, what's a chaser? So a chaser is someone who's specifically fetishizes trans women or trans people, and wants to date them because of that, like, by virtue of that fetishization, right? Like, for example, like Tobin, like, a chaser is the last person who I ever want to date in my fucking life because not only are they, like, fetishizing my body, but they're also probably dangerous because oftentimes what you see in chasers is that, like, as soon as the sexual interest in a trans woman wears off, a lot of times they end up becoming, like, super disgusted with trans people because, like, again, it's a fetish for them. So they're usually disgusted with it after they're able to get off. And that's how a lot of trans people end up getting, like, this is usually how the trans panic defense comes up, right?
Yeah.
Like, a lot of people in these kind of situations will go on dates with trans women. They'll go and maybe they'll hook up after, and then they have sex. And then after they're done, the guy or whoever will be like, oh my God, I just had sex with a trans person. I'm disgusted. And then they murder that person. And then they murder that person to, like, defend their sense of heterosexuality or whatever. Pretty cringe. But yeah, a really heavy criticism to lay against people just for having an association with trans people. I don't know. No one can associate with trans people or else they're a chaser. Like, that's a really big assumption.
And even to take it further of, like, you shouldn't have relationships with trans people because that makes you, like, that only works against, like,
oh yeah,
progress
no,
of,
listen, like,
trans people in society. Like, you didn't want to discourage cis people from seeing trans people as, like, valid partners.
Yeah,
that's, like,
I mean, like,
the
I
opposite
would
of
like
what
to,
you want to do.
Yeah, I mean, like, I don't know. Like, personally, I don't want my dating pool to just be limited to, like, trans people. I am not of the opinion that, like, listen, trans people, like, go date who the fuck ever, all right? Like, as long as they're not fucking children, because this is not, we're not doing the pedophilia take, all right? Or the necrophilia take. I'm not dealing with it. Get that shit out of here. But, like, yeah, like, fucking go date cis people, go date trans people, go be gay, go be straight, bi, whatever. Like, yeah, you know, like, it, just because you're cis and you associate with or date trans people, that doesn't make you a fucking chaser.
Yep.
If I'm dead inside, is it still necrophilia? Oof, that's a hard one. But yeah, so I mean, like, I don't know. That's really weird, and it is really bad that people on the left do that. I don't know. There's a lot of things that like it's just important to be able to like recognize like things in our movement that are bad, because like I do genuinely care about our movement. Like I do. I really want us to win. But like when we are like in positions where people are doing like things that are blameworthy in our movement, I think it is on to us to be able to like correct for those. Not to necessarily like not only so that we can make sure that we're improving, but also to make sure that like people on the other side are not able to take like the thing that we are blatantly failing at and use it as like ammunition to be able to have a good argument when they otherwise would never have one, right? Like, to be clear, conservatives almost never have a good argument. Almost all the time, like, especially, like, even during, like, the Trump presidency, but, like, most of the time, like, they don't really propose policy. They just kind of, most of the time, they're just spending all their time just criticizing Democrats or just criticizing people who are actually trying to propose policy. Like, up until literally, like, the final presidential debate, Trump was still saying, oh, don't worry, the healthcare plan is coming. Oh, don't worry, the healthcare plan is coming. Oh, don't worry, the thing to replace the ACA is coming. And they never fucking had one, because all that they care about is repealing the ACA, right?
It's just owning the libs,
Yeah, it's literally just owning the libs. They don't have anything beyond that. So we can't give them the ability to be able to own the libs so that we can show people who otherwise might be fooled into following their movement that actually, like, we're the ones who are actually proposing the right solutions to be able to solve the problems in society, you know?
Yeah. And, like, the thing that kind of bothered me, or that I found funny, is that it's kind of sad to me that, like, me, a 19-year-old guy who, for all intents and purposes, probably doesn't need to care about, like, feminism at all. Like, I could just cruise through life never giving a shit about it. But I believe in it because I think it's correct. I think it's true, and I think it'll make the world a better place. The fact that I could have, like, a better grasp on that and give better arguments for it than somebody whose, like, status in life is going to be dependent on it makes me kind of sad. Like, I feel like it's strange that I would have a better grasp on it than somebody who, like, probably needs to more than I do.
Yeah, no, it does really suck. This is the reason why I'm also very strong. I mean, like, I've said this before, but recently another really big problem within the trans community has been the fact that, like, a lot of trans people have essentially been making the take that cis people cannot talk about trans issues. You know, and I think that's absolutely
I've gotten that one before,
yeah, and I think that's dog shit. And the reason why is just to be like as clear and concise about it. Trans people are not always right about trans issues. Clearly, if this debate is anything to indicate, two trans women debating the subject coming to like two completely different definitions, one having a very glaring issue compared to the other. Like, clearly trans people are not a monolith, and there's no guarantee that everyone within the community are going to have like the most objectively correct takes. Now, I do think that there's benefit to being able to come from a community, and that will probably help you like have a personal experience litmus to be able to like measure against like other, you know, for example, like data or studies or, you know, other empirical empirically observable phenomenon. But I think that it's more important to focus on like the merits of someone's arguments over whether or not they happen to come from that background, you know? Like, for example, like the person who I was talking to yesterday, Avi, has helped me a ton, like a massive amount in being able to like get through some of these different arguments. And I do have to like fully credit him for being able to help me. And he's a cis guy, you know, like he's a doctor. He's a PhD studying biology right now, who also has studied a ton of philosophy. Like, I can't fucking look at that and say that that person shouldn't help me or shouldn't help trans people and participate in discussions just because he's not trans. Like, that's ridiculous. That's such a valuable tool to the group, right? Similar to like Vosh, who's argued a ton on behalf of trans people. Similar to Zan, who's argued a ton to help trans people. Like, these people have done like a ton of massive good. I mean, like Philosophy 2, before they ended up coming out as trans, like before that, you know, like when the social understanding was that they were cis, like they did a lot of really good stuff during that time when everyone assumed that they were cis, and people probably really benefited from that, you know? So cis allies are important in normalizing, absolutely. And so like the idea that we should
even just like a.
Sorry, go ahead.
Sorry, go ahead.
Well, no, but yeah. So I was just gonna say that like clearly like obviously trans people are not a monolith. Clearly the left is not a monolith, and it's important to just like correct these behaviors, because like if not, like that's a really that's especially a really, really dangerous belief to bite on, because if we do, we're effectively saying that a lot of people who are really learned in these areas and who know a lot about these various subjects just can't help, you know, and that's a massive amount of utility that ends up being lost. Like like those people, like Vosh probably has done more for a lot of trans liberation than a lot of like say local activists, certainly more than me, you know. And a lot of people, not everyone, obviously there's going to be people who've done more, but I think to say that like that's hand waveable away because of the fact that he says, that's just a really hard bullet to bite. But a lot of people have
and
been
also it's just like it's a numbers game even. Like when you're talking about smaller and smaller minority groups, like if you want to get anything done politically to like advance your actual like condition in life beyond like Twitter activism, like the statement like you need like straight or cis allies shouldn't even be close to controversial, because it's just a straight up numbers game.
Yep.
You need people on your side that are part of the majority group, because we live in a democracy, right? Like you're not going to win any election on the trans vote. It's just not going to happen.
Yep.
So the idea that you can just like turn away cis allies, like, you know, good luck doing anything ever.
Yep. Yeah. Yep. I don't know. I mean, like a lot of this ties into, I mean, like I've also, because like, I mean, I'm not sure if you're aware, like I actually work in legislation both at the state and federal level. Like I work for elected officials. Like I work in Congress, state and federal. And like I know how a lot of these things work, and it's very glaring to me when I feel like this is not like these things that we're saying, they're not I feel like they should not be controversial, you know? Like an ideal, like the idea that we need to be able to like acquire the help of allies should not be a controversial issue. It shouldn't. Like especially if we're like trying to achieve trans liberation. But like I don't know, it's very difficult, and it's very concerning. It's more concerning to me than anything, right? When like you end up in situations where you feel like you're expressing ideas that like everyone should broadly agree on, and then you get a lot of pushback from people who actually like unironically are arguing for the thing that goes against your interests, you know? Yeah. I don't know. Is there? I feel like we've gone down a lot of different tangents.
And you still have like
I still have half the video to go over. Fuck me. Is there anything I should watch? Like, give me the primer. How's the second half of the video turn out? You said you watched it with your stream.
It's no better than the first. So.
Oh God.
Yeah.
All right. Well, that's cool. Also, hey, Evie or something. Sorry, I shouldn't say, because I think Patreon doesn't care about censoring your name. But thank you for you pledged $10, and I appreciate it on Patreon. All right. All right. Well, let me just get the fuck back to this thing. All right. We have to finish this.
Sure thing. I'd love to talk some other time about any topic other than Demon Mama.
Yeah, for love of like fucking please. Also, wait, hold on. Actually, I really want to do this right now, since considering the situation, there's like 1,500 people watching right now. Do you want to shout yourself out where people can find you?
Oh well, most of them probably already know, because it's the DGG people. They know about
all right,
me.
all right, all right.
But sure, yeah. Twitch.tv/DaSkrubKing.
All right, everyone go give DaSkrubKing the follow if you haven't already. If you haven't, who the fuck are you? You massively cringe. All right, don't be cringe. Don't do it. It's a bad idea. All right, thank you so much for talking. I really appreciate it.
All right, sure.
All right,
have a good night. As best a night as you can with this video.
Fuck, I'll try. All right, talk to you later. Bye.